We're here to solve this TomTom by Ashish Kumar called 1, 6 to 13 series. The main theme is going to be through these 3-cell cages where we've got a 6 near a 7, an 8 near a 9, a 10 near an 11, and a 12 near a 13, so an ascending series, as well as a single one that gets us some starting points for placements. Some of these are going to be forced sums, like the 13 and 11, and even the 9 will have to be a sum of digits. 6 can be a sum or a product, but it's always going to be 1 with 2 of 3. And so the star of this puzzle is probably marking in this cage, and also a 7 will always have to be 1 with 2 with 4. And those give actually a fun look of elimination down here. This 8 cage could have been a product, 1 times 2 times 4, but all those digits are removed here. And when you see that the digit options are 3, 5, 6, and 6 can't go into this cage, this will be a sum. And a sum with an 8 always has to have a 1 inside of it. The only place for a 1 is here. And we're going to have a 3, 5 and a 2, 4. So 3, 1, 4 or 5, 1, 2 will fill out this cage on its own. Looks like we've got some other constraints that will really play out in this bottom clue. This 9 cage has to be a sum, and it actually has fairly large digits for these spaces. Actually, if we had a, let's see how will this go. If we had a 4 here as the smallest possible value, we can no longer have a 6. We also can no longer have a 5. 4 plus 5 plus 0. So you only would get to 9, and this grid is not going to allow any digits lower than 1 to go into it. So we get a 3 in the cell, which finishes out this column. It also finishes the 8 cage. 3 can't go with a 6, and 5 plus 3 plus 1 would put another 1 here. So the 9 is 5 and 3 and 2. And this column is finished by putting in a 5, 6, steered by the 5 already in the grid. We get 3, 4, 3, 4 over here. It's like a 5, 6, 1, 5, 6, 1, 5, 6. Still a lot of options. 6 plus 3 plus 1, 5 plus 3 plus 2, 1 plus 4 plus 5. The one thing we know for sure is this is a sum in the 10. This 11 is also a sum. I'm trying to see where there's more to think about. This 13 cage looks promising. It's a big sum, and it leaves behind 8 in the 3 remaining cells that are in that row. And an 8 sum can never have a 6 in it, so a 6 is always in this cage. A 1 is always outside of this cage, but it looks like that's really where I'm going to stall out, that a 2, 5, or 3, 4 come into this space and finish it out. So let's look at maybe the least promising cage and see if we can do something with it. A 12 had a lot of options at the start. It has 2 product groups, 1 times 2 times 6, but the 6 eliminates that. 1 times 3 times 4 is still possible for this and looks okay. It had a lot of sums at the start, but the 6 removes most of them. The only sum that looks to remain is 3, 4, 5. And just thinking about that, there's this unusual cell that I've not marked in, but if we put it in, the 2 digits down below in this column eliminate 1 and 2. A 6 down here means that this cell must be a 3, 4, or 5, and in recognizing that, the sum is removed from this 12, and so this 12 must be a product. This is a really narrow constraint. You would not think this is the promising cage, but it actually turns out at this moment a 12 as a product is an absolute forced requirement. Putting in those digits means there's only a 5 left for this cell and only a 2 left for this cell, which finishes this column. And putting in the last place for 1 in the second column we get here in the puzzle. We're going to have a 1 come up here and a 1 come down here. One thing we can now do, we were talking about the sum of 8 for this whole row outside of the 13 cage. That means this is a 3 or a 5. And another thing we can now think about is maybe this 10 sum, and that's because we've now eliminated the 1 from this position. So we're in a more limited set with 2, 3, 4, and 6 as the options here. 6 and 4 never worked, and 6 with 3 required 1, so the 6 is dead in this cell. Of the ones that then remain, looks like 4 is not going to be very promising. If a 4 goes in here, we have 1, 4, 5, but 5's already eliminated, and 5, 4, 1, but 1's already eliminated. So we can say that this for sure is a 3, puts a 4 over there. This 3 actually means this is a 5, which means 2, 4 is a set here. That 5 eliminates down, so this is a forced 1. 1 and 3 means this is a 4, and we're left with 2, 6, but 1, 3, 6 is a sum. So we finish this whole column. We've got 1 and 3 to place in the top row, which have to go in these cells. We have 5 and 6 to place over here, so this is 6, this is 5, puts in a 2. We've now have 5, 6 in the bottom that's forced. This is a 3. with a 6-4 pair, and this is 4 and 3, and we finished the grid. So a pretty tricky solve, but it really took advantage of limited cages. Intersections with this 8-9 were a good starting point. But I think the key observation was really the one that we hit in the middle, this aha moment that you've got a cell that's a 3-4-5 here, which now constrains the 12 cage, which looks to be the most permissive cage in general, to actually just one set of options. 1 and 3 and 4 have to go into it in some way. And that really breaks into the whole solve. So hopefully you're getting good at notating TomTom puzzles as I did here to recognize some of these more constrained cells and how those work with other cages. These tips and tricks will apply to other TomTom through this week and that you'll solve outside of this site anyway. Hopefully you're learning through these videos, and we'll see you again soon.